Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. In today's video, we are taking a look at the age-old debate between the Cloudlifter and the Fet Head. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, you might be wondering what a Cloudlifter is or what a Fet Head is. In a nutshell, it'll make a dynamic XLR microphone a little bit louder without having to strain your preamp. Now, if you have ever paid attention to YouTubers or streamers or podcasters, chances are you have seen the EV-RE20 or possibly the more popular Shure SM7B. Both of these microphones are dynamic microphones. Now, dynamic microphones are very good at rejecting outside sounds, and if your room isn't necessarily the best sound-treated room out there, dynamic microphones can incredibly help the audio. The main reason I prefer a dynamic microphone is the fact that I find it incredibly forgiving. I have a lot of noise around me when I'm recording. I don't have a soundproofed room. I have a furnace vent beside me. I have my computer running. I'm beside the laundry room, so there is a chance for a lot of noise to be introduced into my recording. And with a dynamic microphone, it does a really good job at just kind of rejecting a lot of that noise, provided I stay relatively close to it. With a condenser microphone, I find it picks up absolutely everything and becomes a bit of a nightmare, especially with my computer fans running. So the dynamic microphone works wonders. I love it. But the problem is the gain. This thing is incredibly quiet. The Shure SM7B is even more quiet, and it requires a ton of gain in order to be able to hear it. Now, the preamp or audio interface that I'm using is the Scarlett Solo. I have this plugged directly into the computer, and that's what you're listening to right now. In order for you to hear this microphone, I've got this cranked up at about, if I had to guess, it would be about 95%, which isn't the best in my opinion if you're trying to reduce overall noise. Fortunately, the Scarlett Solo is pretty darn good at providing clean gain, but there are a lot of audio interfaces out there that when you crank them to the maximum, they start to get a little noisy. You start to hear the hums and the hiss, and it's not necessarily a pleasant listening experience, and it's a nightmare when you're trying to edit that audio out. Now, this is where the Fet Head and the Cloudlifter come into play. Both of these devices do the exact same thing. You can plug them into each other, but they don't work that way. It's a one or the other situation. You can either use the Fet Head or the Cloudlifter. Both of these devices increase the overall volume or gain without increasing the noise in the line. This will let you use less volume on your preamp. For example, when I'm using one of these, my Scarlett Solo is sitting at about 40 to 50% on the gain dial, as opposed to about 90 to 95% without using one of these. So now I've got the Fet Head plugged into the microphone here, and I've got the phantom power turned on so you can hear everything. I've turned down the volume on the Scarlett Solo to about 45%. Let's take a look at the Fet Head specs. So here's what the Fet Head page says. Boost your microphone for ribbon and dynamic microphones, often imitated, never duplicated. 27 decibels of clean gain, lowers the noise floor of your recordings, easy to install, 2 clicks and you're done. One of the benefits of the Fet Head is that it doesn't require any extra cables. You can plug it directly into your microphone, or you can plug it directly into your preamp and just run the XLR cable from that. The Fet Head is manufactured by Triton Audio in Holland and weighs about 47 grams. So now I have just removed the Fet Head and replaced it with the Cloudlifter. On the Scarlett Solo, I did have to increase the gain just a little bit to about 50%. Let's take a look at the specs. So the Fet Head states it provides 27 decibels of clean gain, where the Cloudlifter states it provides 25 decibels of ultra clean gain. Fancy. So it's 2 decibels less, but provides ultra clean as opposed to just clean. Now, the Cloudlifter's form factor is a little bit different when compared to the Fet Head. You will need 2 XLR cables for this to work. It's heavy, it's made of metal, and it feels pretty solid. On top of that, it looks like it was made straight out of the 50s. The Cloudlifter is made in the USA and it weighs a whopping 318 grams. Just a little bit more than the Fet Head that came in at 47. So here's the size difference between the Fet Head and the Cloudlifter. You can see how much smaller the Fet Head is when compared side by side. It's kind of interesting because both of these devices do pretty much the exact same thing. So now let's take a look at the price difference between both of these devices. The Triton Audio Fet Head is coming in at about $90 American, whereas the Cloudlifter is coming in at $149, so about $60 more than the Fet Head, which is almost double the price. Now, I don't really have the proper setup to test the noise floor of these devices, so what I'm going to do is just crank the volume. I'm going to step back from the microphone and see if you hear any differences between any of the setups. So right now, I have the microphone plugged directly into the Scarlett Solo. I'll count to 5 here to see if you can hear any sort of noise. Now I have the Fet Head plugged into the microphone. I'll count to 5 again to see if you can hear any sort of noise. Now I have the Cloudlifter plugged into the microphone, and I'll do the exact same test to see if you can hear any sort of difference. For this next test, I'll speak directly into the microphone to see if you can hear any sort of coloration difference in my voice depending on the device being used. This is the microphone going directly into the Scarlett Solo. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, and 3. Now I have the Fet Head plugged in. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, and 3. Now I have the Cloudlifter plugged in. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, and 3. Now for my overall thoughts between the Fet Head and the Cloudlifter. In terms of overall build quality, the Cloudlifter here wins hands down. This thing is solid, it's built like a tank, and it's fully made of metal. It honestly feels as if I were to throw this at a wall, it would damage the wall and not the Cloudlifter. The Fet Head, on the other hand, leaves a little bit to be desired. Now, in terms of overall portability, if you move your setup around quite a bit, the Fet Head wins hands down. This thing is light, it's small, it's extremely portable. I mean, it'll fit in your pocket. With the Cloudlifter, this thing is bulky, it's not very small, and it is heavy. If you were to put this in your pocket, if you could actually fit it in your pocket, it would probably pull your pants down. In terms of gain provided, the Fet Head wins here because it provides 27 decibels of gain versus the 25 from the Cloudlifter, although 2 decibels of gain really isn't that big of a difference. Now, in terms of overall price, the Cloudlifter is $149, where the Fet Head is $89.95, so the Fet Head wins this one very easily. But I guess if you're just looking to pay the most money, then the Cloudlifter wins. I will say though, based on everything I've tested so far, I would say the Cloudlifter should be priced closer to $100 and the Fet Head should be priced closer to $50. To be perfectly honest, I think they're a little bit overpriced for what they are. Now, in terms of overall sound quality, this one is an interesting one and I'm going to leave it up to you. Which device did you prefer? I think it might vary from person to person based on the headphones you're wearing, based on your hearing or listening preferences. And on top of that, it might vary on setup to setup. If you really think about it here, if you're using a Cloudlifter or a Fet Head and you have different XLR cables or a different preamp or a different computer, it might sound a lot different than the way it sounds with me. If you want the cheapest solution possible, go with the Fet Head. It's $89.95. It works fairly well and it doesn't need an extra XLR cable. If you're looking for something that's a little bit more popular but also built better here, you're going for quality, then go with the Cloudlifter. Now, for my overall preference, I do like the Cloudlifter. I think it is overpriced for what it is, but at the same time, I quite like the build quality over the Fet Head. The Fet Head did make me nervous when it was plugged into the microphone, and I didn't like the extra couple of inches added onto the back of the mic. I also didn't like how this stuck out a couple of inches when it was plugged into my preamp. So I think at the end of the day, I'm going to stick with the Cloudlifter here. I've used both on my channel, and if you want to go through my videos, I won't tell you which ones I use the Fet Head in and which ones I use the Cloudlifter in, but I have been switching it up over the last number of videos. But anyways, that is all I've got for today. Let me know which device you preferred in the comments below. Did you like the Cloudlifter, or did you like the Fet Head? Or maybe you liked neither. Or on the off chance, did you prefer the Fetlifter Cloud Head? If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Thank you, everyone. Take care.